Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Sayla and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome back to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack. And today our guest is Chuck Bongiovanni, and he's a certified franchise executive and the founder of Care Patrol Franchise Systems, the largest franchise senior placement company in the nation with over 150 offices. He's currently CEO and co-founder of Majestic Residences Franchise System, a senior residential care home franchise. So Chuck, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Just call me Chuck. That's it.
Chuck. So Chuck, give us a little bit more insight into your background and how did you get started with, the residential senior living assisted spaces?
Sure. Back when the dinosaurs roamed in 1993, I was in college and I worked at a nursing home. I was a certified nurse's assistant at a nursing home. Hardest job of my life, but I really, really enjoyed it. And, graduated here in Arizona and started as a master's in social work. So I was a social worker and I started working with a home health company. So I had to visit seniors in their homes, like after they had surgery and those kinds of things. And a good number of them were already in assisted living. And this is, back 30 years ago when assisted living really wasn't that popular, shall we say. So in that job capacity, I had families who had their loved ones at home that needed to find assisted living and couldn't take care of the home anymore. So I had an idea. I was like, what if I kind of became a realtor or a real estate agent, but instead of selling homes, I can work with small assisted living homes and in communities. So I started that on the side of my side hustle, shall we say, and did extremely well with that. So I quit my job as a social worker and did that full time and worked with families, got referrals from hospitals and nursing homes and stuff. And wow, so I worked that for a number of years. And then I decided to franchise that in 2009 and built that up, taught people how to do it. And we sold to private equity in 2018 and 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic where people are dying in nursing homes. I decided to start another franchise. And that was small residential care homes. And it's been going great for the last 2 years, even though post-pandemic and economy and the whole 9 yards.
Small residential care homes, what does that really mean? And how does that model kind of look like?
Sure. Well, there's like 30,000 of them, believe it or not. And so what they are is...
Across the U.S.?
Across the U.S. Yeah, there are a lot of them. And so someone would take a house, just a regular house in a residential neighborhood, and they would license it as like a mini assisted living place or a mini memory care home, license it through the state. And so states vary, but some states limit your capacity to 6 seniors. Others go as high as 16. It isn't like you're buying a house and renting space because the seniors in these homes need care. They're not independent. They're not driving to Walmart. It's not like a Golden Girls kind of thing. So you have 24-hour staff. And so, with our franchise system, we help people become a franchisee and run that kind of business. Or we have opportunities for investors who will invest in a residential home and work with my franchisee and lease the property to them to run the home.
Got it. So with something like that, because you're working with seniors and it's also assisted care, I would expect that there was some type of permits that you would need or some type of exceptions and protections in place because you're working with the elderly here and they need medical care.
Right. Well, first, every single home is state licensed. So you have to go through a little bit of the zoning with the municipality and then onto state. Of course, everyone has insurance in case of, real bad situations. The beautiful thing about it is that I get questions a lot about HOAs. You can't run a business in an HOA. Well, there's a little law, I'm being sarcastic here. There's a little law called the Federal Fair Housing Act that absolutely forces HOAs to say yes to a residential care home. So you can open these up without the fear of an HOA coming in and saying you're running a business.
When you're doing that, like in an HOA, like since we were talking about the HOAs, then if you are running it, if you are opening it up in an HOA community, are there additional like permits that you need to get from them as well? Because you're creating the facilities that is geared towards the elderly. There must be other regulations and everything like that to gear towards suitable living environment for them.
Yeah, not with the HOA. It really stems more from the state because, again, everyone is state licensed. The HOA, the only thing an HOA can stop can prevent legally is removing the garage door. So we have a lot of our homes they'll buy a 4 or 5 bedroom home and add 2 or 3 bedrooms. They build 2 or 3 bedrooms in the garage to add capacity, but they have to keep the garage door on.
Got it.
Other than that, they can't really do anything to stop them.
So from the business model perspective, how does it look like and how does it work? Because not only are you purchasing the property itself and then bringing in senior residents to live in that home, you're also providing the care as well. So how does that kind of all play out from the business side of things?
So on the business side, for a franchisee, they would purchase a home. So you have costs with that. We prefer 4 to 5 bedroom ranch style homes. Let's start with a 5 bedroom home. They can add 2 to 3 rooms in the garage. Everyone has, a dining room or some room in the house, which is useless, right? So we can convert that to a room. Your master bedroom is usually semi-private. So you're at 10 people right there, 10 potential residents, if your state allows for that much, right? So they're staffed 24 hours a day with certified caregivers, not nurses, certified caregivers. So a franchisee would hire an administrator / manager, someone who's actually running the business. They would do all the hiring and firing. And with 10 residents, you would have 2 caregivers during the day, 2 in the evening, and 1 overnight. And we're averaging right now between $5,000 and $6,000 per resident per month. So the biggest fee, shall we say, or out of that is the caregivers. It's about a 45%. Almost 50% of the revenue that's coming in is going out to the caregivers.
Got it. So the caregivers are not live-in caregivers.
No.
They come in and then they provide care for the residents there and then they leave and then they'll switch shifts to the new caregivers for the different times.
Right. You could have a live-in caregiver. That happens, but usually it's shift work.
So it sounds like there's 1 caregiver per every 5 residents. Is that the typical standard or does it vary from state to state?
It varies more from the care that the seniors require as opposed to state by state. But 1 to 5 is a good ratio. Most of them are 1 to 6, but we believe in having that little extra safety edge there for our residents.
Got it. So when you say on the month-to-month basis, they're averaging about $5,000 to $6,000 per resident. I didn't catch if you said it was after all the costs of it, or was that the total and then taking out like the mortgage and the expenses and everything like that?
That is what they get from each resident, right? So then you have your mortgage costs. You have, like I said, 50% for staffing. Food is not that much, believe it or not. And just, your normal real estate costs, right? The franchisee is left with a pretty decent amount at the end of the month. Once they're full, it takes a while to break even, but usually in a 10-bed home, usually bed 8, 9, and 10 is pretty much sheer profit.
The residents that are coming in, are they usually assisted by the state to subsidize some of that cost as well? Or are you dealing solely with the residents and their own individual money that they're providing? Or is it like some assistance from the state?
Right now, we're pretty much dealing private pay or long-term care insurance, but some states do assist that payment, and that's up to the franchisee if they want to accept it. It is a much lower amount compared to a private pay basis.
When you identify a property and you identify as this one here as a potential to create the small residential homes for the senior care, how long does it typically take to get it ready and suitable for the residents to come in?
Great question. I want to say 4 to 6 months. And a lot of that is just waiting for the state to come out and license it. Usually any kind of modifications would be, putting bedrooms in the garage. The only other one, really the big one, is converting one of the bathrooms into like a big shower room. So you keep the commode, you make a standalone pedestal, right? And then remove the bathtub, have a sheer walk in, and Most of the people will like tile half the room to make it look, to make it safe in case, there's any water, they don't want any water damage or whatever. But making one big shower is basically what it comes down to. And then once you finish that, you have to, furnish it, and then you call the state to come in and take a look at it. Some of the homes by state have to be sprinklered, some don't. So usually if the homeowner is pretty quick at doing some of the construction work, it can be done within usually 4 months or so. But we like to say 4 to 6 months before that happens.
And usually what's the occupancy rates that you're seeing on average across the properties that you and your franchisees are seeing?
We're pretty full. As a matter of fact, we need more franchisees because we're at that point where we are seeing our homes fill up pretty quickly and staying full.
So then do the residents have is there a wait list or something like that they're also put on?
Yeah, there's always a wait list, but if your mom needs care and she's home and she's falling, you're not going to wait for a certain home or a certain facility to have an opening. You're going to find somewhere else,
That's true. So there's a lot of good that you're doing here because you're providing a safe place for senior residents to come in and stay at, providing the care also with them. How is something like this different than the larger facilities that they're able to go to, or what people typically call a nursing home as well?
Sure. Great question. The biggest difference is the staff to resident ratio. Like we mentioned, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 6. In the big places, it's probably 1 to 20 or so.
Oh, wow.
Right?
1 to 20.
Yeah. So the residents are actual caregivers. Okay. The bigger places tend to count, office staff as in that ratio. Right. So they may say 1 to 6, but that includes the secretary and that includes the lawn guy. These are at our home, 1 to 5, 1 to 6 is legitimately caregivers. The difference is the kind of resident also. Our resident is kind of in between, those big assisted living places and a regular nursing home. So we have that resident who needs more the hands-on care. Sometimes they have confusion, dementia, Alzheimer's. Sometimes they don't, but they definitely need someone always supervising them. And you really can't do that in some of the big places that have apartments. If mom's falling at home, you don't want her in a big place where she has her own apartment because she could fall in her apartment and no one would know until mealtime. And even then they may not check on her. So in our homes, you're always within an eyesight or earshot of a caregiver.
Is it difficult or challenging to find caregivers in the markets that you're in? And have you experienced challenges with finding the right caregivers?
That happens, especially now there really is a caregiver shortage across the nation. But we need 1 caregiver per 5 residents compared to companies like an in-home care company where they bring caregivers to your home. They need 1 caregiver per every client they have. So they're seeing more of that difficulty than we are, since we need less caregivers overall. But it has been a challenge. But in our training, we believe heavily in involving the caregiver as part of the culture and part of the team, and make them feel like that they're needed, which they're the life source of the business.
What is, I guess, as an investor, or if you're looking to do this as a business and this is the model that you want to follow, what's kind of the biggest challenge that you come across, or the biggest mistake that people who look to get into the small residential homes tend to fall into? They
try to do it on their own, right? So not only are they doing something they don't have experience with, but they think if I build it, they will come. And that's not true. True. I mean, it's true that there's 10,000 people turning 65 every single day, right? We're dealing with the 84-year-olds and over usually. And, our franchise brings very, very heavy marketing behind us. I know many homes that are out there that try to do it on their own, make a lot of mistakes, and you don't have to worry about that, once you're involved in a franchise. It's kind of like, do you want to make your own burger stand or do you want to buy McDonald's, right? Which one can get you to success a lot quicker? And for our investors who just want to invest in the home and lease it to our franchisees, kind of like McDonald's in many ways too, right? Their biggest obstacle again is, home selling so fast, right? Because they have to coordinate with our franchisee to make sure it's a home that would work for them and such. But, we're looking, our franchise agreements are 5 years. So to someone who wants to invest and purchase a home and lease it to our franchisees, they've got a 5-year tenant who isn't going to leave in the middle of the night with the refrigerator. who has another company actually overseeing, what the home looks like and what they're doing and make sure they're repairing things and those kinds of things. So it's good for the person who wants to buy the home and become the actual franchisee. And it's also good for the person who wants to come in and just invest and have a pretty high premium rent from the franchisees for 5 years minimum.
What kind of areas or neighborhoods would this model typically work for, especially for like the senior citizens? What kind of like amenities or surrounding areas do they look for would make it like a successful place to build up and start one of these homes?
That's a great question because the answer is even better anywhere except for in the middle of nowhere. We have 4 homes in a zip code in Scottsdale, Arizona. They've been 100% full for about a year and a half now. And that zip code itself has the most senior care homes of any zip code in the nation. And we're still able to keep them full and we're not afraid of competition. Most people say, I want to find a real high-end neighborhood and do this. That's a mistake because people that have a lot of money have the money to keep mom at home as opposed to having them go somewhere else. So that's what kind of makes it really brilliant because you just really need to find, a larger home in any neighborhood that could work. Because if I could show you a map where all 30,000 of these things are located, they're all over the place. I mean, I'm willing to bet any one of your listeners has one within a half mile to a mile radius of them. Every listener you have.
When you're also working with the senior citizens and the elderly in this capacity, I would also imagine that there might be some liabilities also that come with it too. Mm-hmm. As investors, how do you protect yourselves from certain liabilities? Because there could be quite a lot. They could, they could fall down. They could do this, in the homes that you own.
Yeah. For the investor, believe it or not, the liability is very limited, because the home is actually licensed through the state and the manager of that home is the one who's liable for all of the care in the home and such. So it's not that much of a liability. It would be the same as if you were just renting the home to anyone, right? You're going to want to have insurance, of course, but our franchisees also have insurance too, professional liability insurance. So, things are covered if there's ever an issue.
And how often does the state typically come to review the properties and make sure that it's coded and it's, up to code?
Usually once a year or once every 2 years, depending on the state. But our homes are going through accreditation through the Joint Commission, which is called JACO, which is the organization that accredits hospitals and nursing homes and such. It's the highest level you can possibly get. If a home has that, then they don't get checked on, shall we say, by the state they don't, as long as they keep their accreditations, the state doesn't come in and check on them. It's through the accreditation.
Got it. So with your model here as a franchisee, do you work directly with the investors to get everything set up from when they identify a property, or do they get you involved prior to even identifying a property?
Yeah, that's what's beautiful. So the step is this: once a franchisee is approved by us, then we connect them with the investor. So then they go out, both of them, and find a suitable home. Once they find one, we'll, of course, come take a look at it, of course, and approve the site. And then it's between the investor and the franchisee. Who pays for any remodeling? How does that work? For example, if you're going to build, let's say, 2 bedrooms in the garage, and let's say they agree to a potential purchase after 5 years. And if the franchisee pays for those 2 bedrooms, they're going to want to make sure the home is appraised. It's appraised for X amount of bedrooms minus 2 since they've paid for them. So many times the investor says, we'll pay for the bedrooms, right? Because it'll be worth more, in 5 years with the extra bedrooms. The comps would be different. So that's all negotiated between the franchisee and the investor themselves. And we'll get involved if need be. If one of them is being, outrageous and the negotiations not going well, we'll jump in there and help them and make sure that everyone leaves feeling good.
So then what happens after the end of the 5-year contracted period?
Sure. Well, with the franchise, we have 5-year agreements that are renewable. So the franchisee can continue as long as they're in good standing. Could be the same for the investor. If not, I had a franchisee who converted a garage into 3 bedrooms. He did it without getting the inspector's approval first. So when the inspector came, he said, this needs to be a garage again, and then I'll approve you. So
wow.
He had to take him down and make him into a garage again. And I can tell you that I couldn't tell that they were 3 bedrooms before. So, they would just reverse everything they did in the remodel and give the home back after 5 years. But we always recommend, really looking into a 3 to 5 year, I don't want to say lease to purchase, but more of a purchase option after that time.
One of the things you had mentioned earlier too was, something especially in today's real estate market, there's movement going on. It's very highlighted in the news and everything like that right now. Everybody's heightened to what's going on within real estate. How much more difficult has it been, or if it has been at all, to find the homes for what you're trying to do here? And is your investments and how you approach it, is that going to change a little bit going forward in the future?
Great question. Because like a year ago, it was almost impossible. Homes were going so fast, and some of our franchisees are getting small business administration loans, and that takes a while, and they won't even approve you until you have a place, right? So we're seeing it slow down. So, we're seeing homes in the market longer than they have been, of course, from a year ago. Some prices are starting to go down also. But as far as an investor goes, I really believe it's really safe, because with a 5-year guaranteed lease, you have the time there to see what happens with the market, right? And so, right, and you can even, have an established minimum price if you want to sell it in 5 years. If I bought it for $650, the minimum price you're going to buy this off me is $650. Of course, we all want it to go up, which I'm sure it will in 5 years, but you kind of have a safety net. And remembering that the franchisees, are going into this because they couldn't get a loan on their own, or decided to not invest the money on the down payment so they could maybe lease 2 or 3 homes and get their business up at a quicker rate. Got
it. Yeah. And it seems so interesting too, because you mentioned that there's 30,000 homes like this across the United States. But I can only imagine that demand for these types of facilities is so much higher than what's being supplied in the market space. What are you looking to in order to grow and to meet that type of demand? Well, the reason for that is because, if a big place wants to open, one of the big assisted living places, that's like a 2-3 year ordeal. They have to buy the property, go through all the coding, go through all the municipalities, then build it. I mean, it takes a long time. With us, it's, 4 to 6 months. So we can build much quicker at open places, much quicker than these bigger places can get, right? A lot of people are interested in this space, a lot. Franchisees and investors. Investors are just starting to understand the benefits of this, long-term lease, et cetera. But we're also seeing right now that the smaller homes are selling more than the bigger ones are right now. So it's kind of a perfect storm, but also a thunderstorm at the same time. It's a perfect storm for us, right? Because seniors are getting older. They need this kind of care. Small or larger homes are selling, taking longer to sell. They're dropping prices quicker. So for the investor or for the franchisee, this might be that hidden model through this whole real estate bubble of what's going on. Is it going to go up or down or crash or whatever? I think it's a pretty safe bet because of the time that's involved in it. And I would imagine too, because you're looking for the larger homes, that you're not going to be getting the same competition as, the 3-4 bedroom type family homes. Right. That makes sense. Yep. Actually, it makes dollar sense. Makes dollar sense. For you guys, what's next for you then? Are you going to continue to grow in the markets that you're currently in? Are you looking to expand? What is next and what are you guys looking forward to? Yeah, our ultimate goal is like 300 franchisees, 300 homes. That would be like 1% of the market. But branding wise, that would be, a real big step for us to own 1% of the market, right? What we're really trying to do is these larger communities that are across the United States, they're well known. You see them on your main streets, right? But there is no brand like that for the smaller homes. So we kind of want to be the biggest of the smalls and utilize the power and strength and branding from that, as opposed to just opening up, Susie's Adult Care Home. You open up Susie's Adult Care Home by Majestic Residences and have that support behind the franchisee and such. So right now we'll be at about 10 homes open, another 15 all in development. They're being built or looking for homes and such. We hope to be by the end of next year at about 50 to 75 up and operating. So we believe we'll hit our goal of 300 about 2.5 years, we hope. Oh, nice. So how has real estate investing impacted your life so far? You've done so much and you started in as a registered nurse and now you're the ones providing the facilities for the senior cares. So how has it impacted your life so far?
It's kind of funny because, for years I was helping people find these places, right? And didn't have any kind of the real estate experience whatsoever. One of my franchisees is a flipper, and he said, I found the perfect home to do this. So I went over and took a look at it, and I was like, man, this is like a crack house. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with this thing. And he made it into a luxury 9-bed home. I was amazed. For years, again, looking for the homes with families, I never went from, conception to a built home before, right? So it's been amazing to see what our franchisees have been able to do. They have that eye that I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And I'm developing that now, walking into a home and saying, yeah, we can knock down that wall. We can do that. We can do that. And it's amazing with people with skill, what they can do in the real estate world. Myself, I guess I made the mistake that everyone says, don't ever buy your house in cash. So I guess I made that mistake. But feels nice not having a mortgage. You know what I'm saying?
And if there was one thing you know now about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started, what would that be?
Great question. Well, kind of like we're talking about, gain that ability to look at the finished product. Don't look at where you are, right, where it is right now. Look at the finished product. Keep your eye on the game at the end, right? And that way you can have that vision to hit that goal and do with that property what you want to do with it.
And if there's one thing that sets the successful people apart in real estate investing, what would that be?
Oh, I've always been one that believes that when there's crisis, there's a lot more opportunity. When everyone else is freaking out, there's opportunity. And that's really, really important, especially right now in real estate. Make a decision, make a commitment, and then just do it. And don't worry about what everyone else is saying. Because for everyone that's saying we're going to crash, there's someone else saying it's going to level out a little bit or whatever. I mean, there's naysayers and people on your side at all times, but just, listen to yourself and stay true to that. That's the best thing I can really, tell you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So Chuck, for our listeners also out there who want to find out more about what you're doing, where's the best place that they can go?
Best place if you want to invest in a home and lease it to a franchisee or become a franchisee and buy the home yourself, www.discovermajesticresidences.com will give you a walkthrough of all the different options that we have, both for investors and for potential franchisees or investor and franchisee together as one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time, Chuck. I'm super grateful that you've come on and shared all of that today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do that with your listeners.
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.